How you doing, people? Welcome back to another ESO video. Today is a brand new update to what you previously knew as the Lazy Tank. Yes, if you've kept up to date with the news and the changes to ESO, you may well know that the Lazy Tank's main function has been nuked. It is now dead because AoE taunts were never intended to be a thing. We had a good ride while it was there, but it is now gone. So the Lazy Tank, as you knew it, is dead. But the build refuses to actually die, so you can now know this as Dark Soul. This one has been risen from the dead with a few twists to it to make it less lazy, but now much, much harder to kill and more useful in other content. So this is designed for all PvE content as a rule, and in Infinite Archive, if you are going to take it in there, it is ridiculous. Yes, you have hemorrhage on tap, and that hemorrhage will make you not die. We'll get more into that when we get to the gear. But essentially, the old Lazy Tank is done, and the new one is here. So again, it's not as lazy as it was before, so he's got a brand new name. And look at his armor, isn't he mega? Let's get into the stats. So first of all, obviously we want to do this and put our buffs on just so we can see what our stats are. We are on 12.7k max magicka, 48.3k max health, and 21.8k max stamina. Resistances across the board are 32.3k as long as you're in combat, but we are very, very slightly off cap. If you change a couple of traits, you could actually hit cap very easily, or if someone put minor resolve into the group, then of course you're going to overcap. So the resistances are absolutely fine throughout. Just make sure you maintain your buffs. And when it comes to weapon and spell damage, obviously there is a slight fluctuation there. We're actually on almost 3k, and our mag recovery and stam recovery are pretty good, given that we're using a tripod with 1.9k mag recovery and 900 stam recovery. Health recovery is so-so, but it is what it is. We've got really high survivability anyway, but no burst heals. We are dealing with heal over time. Now, the health is at 64 attribute points. You can split that up if you really want to, but you don't really need to, because the higher health we've got, the more effective our health-based skills are. We've got a really good amount there. High resist, high health, happy days. You will have to heavy attack occasionally to maintain your stamina, and you have to take advantage of your mag recovery in order to keep your magicka up, but we don't need the larger pool. The larger pool for magic will just mean that we are stripping one resource for another, and we don't need the actual inflated stats. The highest stat we need out of the two is actually stamina. We need higher recovery for magicka so we can use our utility skills more often. The actual scale of it doesn't matter, it's how often you can use it. Again, that depends on your race as to where you want to go with that, because there are slight buffs and bonuses to some that can change that. But again, it's just tweaking tiny stats here and there. Essentially, 64 points into health, nothing anywhere else, if you can manage it that way. Flat food, max health, max stamina, and of course the Atronach Munda Stone. So we've got flat resources for health and stam, survival and resource for blocks, and we've also got the recovery bonus so we can utilize magicka skills more often. Now, we're going to go into the skills. Of course, if you haven't seen this already, there is a class guide on my channel for the Templar where everything is explained, and it's in very, very detailed sections of all the different class skill lines, all the different individuals, morphs, etc., etc. So you can go over there now if you want to see how that all works. I will go over it briefly in here, but this is going to be a bit faster paced than usual because that video already exists. But first of all, we are taking advantage of Living Dark. This is in the Dawn's Wrath ability skill line. It's the fourth one you unlock, starts off as Eclipse. You basically activate this and it gives you a shield for 12 seconds. It's not a damage shield, it's a shield effect. Now, anyone that attacks you will be snared, and anyone that attacks you will heal you, if it is direct damage. And this can happen once every half a second. So basically, just maintain this for its full duration and reapply it when it runs out. Looks like this. And if it's running, you know that you're healing from direct damage. Also, the side effect from the snare is actually quite helpful because as a Templar, we don't have any immobilization or anything that we can take advantage of outside of the single target version, which is the other morph of this. So having a crowd of people slowed down is quite helpful. Repentance is from the Restore and Light skill line. Third ability you unlock starts off as Restoring Aura, morph it to Repentance. Any bodies on the ground, hit this button. It's free. So you see a body, hit this, you'll gain health for every single body on the floor, and you'll also gain stamina back. Now, your group will also heal for 3060 for every single target that you consume, but they won't get the stamina, only you do. So if you see a body on the floor, suck it up, get your resources back. Also, while slotted, you've got minor fortitude, minor endurance, and minor intellect all the time, increasing your mag, stam, and health recovery. Pierce armor. This is quite simple. This is your taunt. Sword and board skill line, first ability to unlock, morph it from puncture to pierce armor. This will apply major and minor breach to the target and aggro them for 15 seconds. Do not let this run out. I know tanks will tell you all the time, let it run out and then reapply it. They're wrong. I don't care who they are, they're wrong. As soon as you let that go off for more than half a second, the enemy could turn around and slap someone else. You do not want that to happen. You're a tank, you're in control of the fight. It is up to you to maintain it. So I would normally reapply this at least once every 12 if you can, just to allow for about 3 or 4 seconds worth of stun, CC situations, or knockbacks or whatever, because they can happen and then you can lose the boss. So just overlap this when it's got a decent amount into the skill and a little amount left. Never let this go down to 0 because you will suck as a tank and everyone will blame you for their deaths. Explosive charge. This is quite simple. You charge into the enemy from 22 meters away, and a 6-meter radius you actually attack the enemies with magic damage. You will gain major protection for a full 10 seconds, which reduces the damage you take by 10% after activating this, and any enemies that are casting will be interrupted and set off balance and stunned for 3 seconds. So this is an area of effect, CC ability, and gap closer, and it's essential towards the build. If you played Lazy Tank before, you know why. If you haven't kept up to date with the changes, I'll let you know when we get to the gear section. This is crucial. You need this as your kind of opener to the fight. Radiant Ward. This is in the Dawn's... No, it's not. It's in the Adric Spear skill line. 5th ability you unlock starts off as Sun Shield, morph it to Radiant Ward. This will give you a damage shield for 6 seconds, and it is scaled off of your maximum health. So the higher the health, the bigger the shield. Nearby enemies take magic damage when you apply it, and each enemy hit will increase the strength of the shield by 20%. So this can be a fucking huge damage shield, which means you don't go anywhere near your health, and then if you do go near your health, then you've got this wicked, fast-paced heal over time, based on how many times you get hit with direct damage, skill as well. So you've got loads and loads of damage shield, massive health, high resistances, big mitigation, and then if they do leak into your health, you're constantly healing out of it. It's very hard for you to die just on the front bar alone. But Spell Wall is in the Sword and Board skill line. The other one does do the same as far as your automatic blocking is concerned, because it blocks for free. You just activate the ultimate and you don't use any stamina at all. You can run full speed, etc., etc. It's great. But the other one lasts 8 seconds and makes all of your Sword and Board abilities cost nothing. We're only using one, so it's not really that important. So we can just heavy attack from underneath it and get any resources back that we need. The reason we've chosen this one over that is because it reflects all projectiles. Now, again, it's got 1 second less. Now, on some builds, that can be a negative. Because if you're trying to res someone with a block ulti, then, of course, you will struggle because the 7 seconds plus running over to pick them up and the 6-second res, it's close. This, however, on a Templar is perfect because we res faster. So the 1 second reduction to the timer doesn't really affect us at all. You can still resurrect someone while your shield wall is present. So activate this as and when you need to, reflect damage, block for free, get some resources back from underneath it. Really, really handy oh shit button. Back bar, we've got Extended Ritual. This is in the Restore and Light skill line. 4th ability to unlock starts off as Cleansing Ritual, morph it to Extended. This lasts a whopping 30 seconds, removes 5 harmful effects from you, and heals you and your group members every 2 seconds. And if they take a synergy, they will heal based off of their stats, and they will also cleanse negative effects from them as well. So you've got a purge for the group. You can activate it on yourself as and when you please, but the initial activation will remove your negative effects, but the group can take a synergy once every 20 seconds. So just maintain this at all times. Always be standing inside of this. Restore and Focus is the next ability down from this. Starts off as Rune Focus, morph it to Restore and Focus. You've got 2 options here, really. You can take this version, which costs stamina and gives stamina back every second, or you can take the other one that gives you magical back every second. Each player is going to see this differently and decide how it works for them and which one they prefer. The choice is yours. But if you choose this one, the heal from it is stronger. So you activate it, you get major resistance bonuses, and you get stamina back every 1 second, and you heal every 1 second, and standing in it increases the healing by 200%. You are really hard to kill with this morph. The other morph is strong, but this one is stronger for the sake of survivability. The choice is yours, though. Radiant Glory. Yep, you didn't see this coming. 5th ability you unlock in the Dawn's Wrath skill line. Starts off as Radiant Destruction, morph it to Radiant Glory. Yes, you have an Execute as a tank. It's not massive DPS in comparison to someone built for DPS, but it's not bad. Extra damage is extra damage, and if the enemy has very low health, you will heal off of it as well. So while standing on your spot, maintaining your aggro and buffs and debuffs, etc., you can actually help the group kill the boss. And if you've got a block ulti running, you can use this from underneath it. So when you can take advantage of these situations, when the health is low, so long as you don't sabotage your ability to tank the boss, in moments of opportunities where they arise, you can execute and help everyone. And of course, you heal for 17% of the damage inflicted while it's channeling. So yeah, this will actually keep you alive and do damage at the same time. Silver Leash is your pull ability. Now, most of the time you aren't going to need to pull stuff because one of the sets we're using does that for you, but it depends on the range. This can be utilized as two different things. One, a ranged pull, and two, a ranged taunt. Now, chain abilities do apply a temporary taunt that will last for 15 seconds and then run out, much like a regular taunt, but this is slightly different. A chain cannot overlap a previous chain taunt. It doesn't count, so the timer will be ignored. The only way to take over a taunt from a chain is to apply a solid full taunt in the form of Pierce Armor or a couple of others that exist in the game. Based on what we're using, this is a little different, but we'll get to that later. Also, when you pull the enemy in, they'll be snared. Now, this is from the Fighters Guild skill line. You need to be... actually, play Fighters Guild 1 to get this, but you need to morph it into Silver Leash from Silver Bolts. Next is going to be a surprise for most of you as well. This is Deadly... not Deadly Cloak, the other one. Where have I gone? Dual wield, fourth ability to unlock, Quick Cloak. Blade Cloak morphed into Quick Cloak, not Deadly. Deadly, yes, does do more damage, but it lasts 20 seconds, not 30. We're taking advantage of this for multiple different reasons. Reason number one, we are protected versus area of effect damage. We've got 20% reduction to all area of effect attacks. That is massive. Number two, it lasts 30 seconds. That's a very long duration. And number three, we've got extra speed if we need it. Now, a slight side effect from that is the fact that it does do damage to enemies within 5 meter radius every 2 seconds. With this being a weapon-based damage over time skill, that means that the weapons that this comes from can apply their glyphs regardless of the bar you are on. So yes, we've got technically a fourth reason. We have 2 glyphs on the back bar. Both of them can fire on cooldown at least every 2 seconds that this applies. It will check to see if it's ready, and if it is, it will go. That will make more sense when we get to the gear. So, speed, reduction to damage, actual damage with glyph firing, and also a long duration so you don't have to actually nuke your resources by using it. This is incredible. Now, Rend is done on purpose as well. This is the ultimate from the dual wield skill line. This was changed, but it's got 2 different effects that we want to take advantage of. The first one was already there. It lasts for 16 seconds, it hits multiple targets, it's very bloody cheap, and for the bleed damage that you do to the targets, you will receive 51% of that damage back as a heal. You are incredibly hard to kill. But this also now guarantees hemorrhage status effect on every single tick of damage, which means while we do have to stack it to 3 to get the most out of it, we will consistently reapply it so it does stay its maximum strength for the full duration of the skill. The healing you get from this is stupid. The hemorrhage status you get is nice for damage, but bear in mind, if you are in the Infinite Archive, because you can take this in there, and you apply this in a crowd, 1, you won't die, and 2, with focused efforts, you're actually going to delete the room. It is free hemorrhage. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Use this as much as you can. Of course, you can put Warhorn on the back if you really want to, but if you're trying to keep yourself alive, you won't die with this running, especially with all this stuff on the ground and your shields running. Now we're going to go into passives, which are bloody important, so don't skip these. But again, in detail, they are in the class guide, but I'm going to tell you the ones you need to get. So this one obviously increases your crit damage, which is kind of nice, but increases the damage done to block and targets. It's not the end of the world if you don't have that, because we're not built for damage, but it does help us nonetheless, so make sure you get it. This one will apply minor protection for applying an Adric Spear skill. So if you apply an explosive charge or radiant ward, you get this, alongside of the major protection you get from explosive charge in the first place. So if you use this, you double dip on both. So definitely get that. This will give you extra damage just for doing damage, so you will proc that all the bloody time, especially when you're using your dual wield abilities. And this increases your weapon and spell damage and your physical and spell resistances. So to get these. Dawn's Wrath, obviously important. This increases the duration of Eclipse, which we are using here. So you want to get that one. This will give you ultimate. If you use this every 12 seconds, you get ultimate once. If you use it every 6, yes, you got to watch your resources, but you can dip on this passive twice. So time that and build your ulti nice and quick. We've got 2 cheap ones anyway. Using a Dawn's Wrath ability will obviously give us weapon and spell damage. Spell damage increase for the group. So everybody gets that. All you need to do is maintain a shield or use Jesus Beam. And when it comes to this one, it reduces the cost of everything. Restore and Light, you are going to take advantage of these. This will increase the healing done depending on how low the target's health is, including yourself. This will give you minor mending for standing in your circle and increase the amount of block for the duration as well. This one you're not really going to be too much into unless people go really, really low health. So I would take it anyway, but the second part of it you're not going to use because we're not using that ultimate. But the first part, if someone's really, really low health and you do activate a heal on them, then they will get ulti back. You will res faster than everybody else in the game because Templars res the fastest. Outside of the Necromancer ultimate, of course, your actual activated resurrection is quicker, which means alongside Spell Wall, even though the 1 second is off versus the other morph, you are absolutely fine. And you return allies with 100% more health than they normally would, and you can fill a soul gem if you're lucky. Sword and Board, get every single one of these. They will reduce the cost. They will increase the damage output. They will positively affect your movement speed versus what blocking would normally do. You'll get reduction to damage from projectiles. You've got all these helpful bonuses and block mitigation bonuses that you definitely need as a tank. So get all of these. We are utilizing nothing but heavy armor. So we've gone full heavy on absolutely everything. And we've got 7 bonuses to all of these passives, which is resistances, healing received, resource management when it comes to heavy attacking. So you get extra back. We've got actual resources coming back from being hit. So you've got 2 stacks here. That's when you heavy. That's when you get hit. We've got healing received. We've got all sorts of bonuses here. You are a tank. You want to survive. Get all of those. These 2 are pretty useless for this build. They're not necessary at all. Fighters Guild, you do want to get this just in case something dies. On your bar, you will get ulti back for a kill. If you kill something while you're on the back bar for whatever reason, that will help. Intimidating Presence, obviously you want to get because it reduces the cost of your pull, and that can get quite expensive. So just mind your resources, make sure you're using Repentance as much as possible, and be careful not to overspam this. But if you do get caught on this bar, you can take advantage of the extra damage, you can take advantage of the ulti regain. You can take this as well if you want. Again, it's not a massive bonus. We are a tank, but if you want to optimize it fully, then of course get the passives. Undaunted, we are using 1 type of armor, but that's irrelevant. Get this passive anyway, because free resources is free resources. Speaking of which, if you take synergies, you'll get free resources. Take synergies. And of course, we are an Imperial. Now, just bear with me on this one. You can be any race you like. It is entirely up to you. Another very good one based on their own passives, yes, because race is passive, is Breton. 7% reduction to cost, extra recovery, extra resistances, which you don't necessarily need, and a big mag bar. All that is fine. But if you choose a different race to this, you will have to wiggle your stats slightly to suit your playstyle or to suit the stats that I showed initially. You can almost match them with any other race anyway, but you'll have some work to do. So you have to watch your attributes and how you distribute your food and all that kind of stuff. But we've got the highest health bonus in the game for any race, which is 2k, highest stam bonus, which is 2k, and we've got a 6% reduction to cost for everything. Bear in mind, Breton has got a 7% reduction to cost for magic abilities. This has got 6% reduction to cost for everything, including your ultimate. So the choice is yours. There's no better race if you like. You just have to wiggle your stats to try and break even if you want. But this has got a good flat health and stam off the bat. We are using tripods. You will have medicinal use as a passive. Make sure that your potion is always grey. If your potion is grey, you are using it and you are taking advantage of your recovery bonuses. If it is not, you're using your potions wrong, and whoever told you it's just to gain resources in emergencies taught you wrong. They do give you resources back when you apply them, but they also maintain the major recovery bonuses that you need to maintain your bar in the first place. Maintaining it and getting the occasional burst of resources is nice. Letting it run out completely and then expecting that burst of resource to help you, you're only going to be able to cast 2 skills before you're out again. Maintain your recovery bonuses. Now we're going to get into the gear. If you've used a lazy tank before, do not worry. Dark Soul is actually in a very similar spot. I'll explain why. So, first of all, we are using Rush of Agony on the sword and board and on the jewelry. Healthy on all 3, mag recovery on all 3. If you are struggling with your mag recovery, you can go with one of these or 2 of these in infused if you want, but bear in mind you're going to lower the health, which means some of your health-based skills will be less effective. But what this does is this defeats the object of having crowd control issues when you want to pull stuff in if you don't have an immobilization, which the Templar technically doesn't. It does on the other Morph of Living Dark, but that's only one target and they have to hit you first, so that's awkward. But this allows you to pull enemies in if you use a charge ability and they don't get stunned. So, what happens now? How do you stun them? Well, Celestrix. You jump in, they're pulled to you, popped and stunned. You've pulled and stunned, there's your, technically, immobilization for the group. You've basically not got it in your toolkit, and we've kind of rigged it to work that way anyway. So, Celestrix, helmet and shoulders, sturdy and sturdy. Health on both. With Rush of Agony on the sword and board, with reinforced on the shield. If you want to, you don't have to. You can actually go sturdy with that if you want. And then Crusher with charged. Yes, charged on the front. Now, for argument's sake, if you are in a situation where there's nothing that can be pulled, maybe you're in a trial and none of the enemies can be pulled at all, then of course you can take advantage of something else. You can go with the Slufrug's, I think that's how you say it, Slufrug's or Slufrug's, I don't know how you say it, Slufrug's Hunger, which will actually allow you to give the group some buffs. If you heal yourself or somebody else, which you will, they have a 3-second buff on them. When you deal direct damage to the enemy with this buff on you, they take more damage and deal less damage to you. So basically, you heal, receive a buff. You hit, they are debuffed. You are applying more damage for the group as yourself and for them. This is a really messed up way to describe a set, but heal on the ground, like this. As long as you're not 100% health and you do heal, you will get a buff. Hit an enemy with that buff, they will be debuffed. You now do more damage to them. And so does everybody else. So all you need to do basically is keep your group inside your circle on the ground, and you've got 4% extra damage to the enemy and 4% reduction to damage to you. I think I got there eventually. That's a difficult one to explain. But anyway, if you're in a trial situation where you don't have enemies to pull, you can go with that. Or you can go with Unleashed Terror and just use Hemorrhage all day long. It's up to you. But essentially, the main set you want to use is Rush of Agony because it defeats the pull, oh my god, it's stunned, I don't have an immobilize issue. Also, if you are in a situation where you don't need stuns at all, again, with a trial situation or whatever, and you are using the extra damage version of the set, then of course, you can go with Baron, because the more status you apply, the more ulti you get, the faster you apply it, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. That one is for pull and stun. The other one is for more damage for the group, and you get more ulti. Now, the main set, we are still using Tormentor. Why, you ask? Why would you do that? Very simple. This was changed slightly, but it still has some very, very positive effects. Reinforced on the chest, and then sturdy on everything else all over the body, so belt, hands, legs, and feet, with health on everything. This will give you maximum health. It will give you heal and taken again, so all the heals that you do and receive are stronger for you. And when you deal direct damage with a charge ability, which we do, we've got explosive charge, which gives us minor protection, major protection, and pulls all the enemies in, you will taunt the first target you hit. So they took away the ability to first impact taunts all targets, because that wasn't intended. And they've made it so the first one you hit is the one that will be taunted. So you can technically jump really, really fast, and now you've got multiples taunted. But read this very carefully. Your pull abilities also count. Now, I said earlier that the pull ability does count as a temporary taunt, and it can't be overwritten by itself. Now it can. Your pull is as much a valid taunt as a regular taunt is. And one more final thing, alongside the resistance bonus that you gain, because you do get resistances still like it used to for jumping in. When you hit people with a charge ability or a pull ability, you heal for 46% of the damage done. That one is not restricted to the single target. That one is dependent on the skill. So if you use a skill that hits multiple targets on impact, you will heal for the amount of damage that you've done, 46% of it, for the whole attack. Which means, yes, if I jump into that crowd now, the first target is taunted, and I heal because I hit them all. As you can see here, the heal on the right-hand side, it looks small, but it's multiple stacked up, and it just scrolls too bloody quickly. But all of those heal me just for doing damage. The initial one is taunted, but you can hit multiples, and they're all mine now. They're all mine. Or I can pull. They're all taunted. They're all controlled. And every single time I do any of those, pull or jumps, I will get resistances, and I will heal. On top of all the Healy stuff we've got here, which is absolutely bonkers. On top of this as well. Now, one more thing to mention about Rush of Agony is that it does actually pop in Area of Effect when you land, which will do physical damage in Area of Effect. If you're lucky enough with your status effects, that will apply Sunder, which is Minor Breach for all if you're lucky. Now, why have we chosen Charged when we're using Rush of Agony and Tormentor and Celestrix, which is Stun, Pull, and Taunt? Why would that make any sense? Well, on the dual wield on the back bar, we're actually using the Black Rose daggers. It doesn't have to be dagger, it could be axe, mace, whatever, but it has to be dual wield. You don't need perfected. That just gives you stamina recovery while on that bar. You don't need it. Just get the basic one. Go on normal. Go with a couple of friends and a companion. Go on normal. Now, when you activate Blade Cloak while in combat, you will gain Spectral Cloak whenever Blade Cloak does damage for 2 seconds. So it does damage all the time, and every time it does, it gives you this buff. You will reduce the amount of damage you take by 6%, and you'll increase the amount of damage you do by 6%. But we've gone deliberately infused on both weapons. We are infused on both because the reduce weapon and spell damage on target is now stronger, and the disease glyph is stronger. But while we are not trying to do extra damage, so why would you inflate that? We are trying to escalate the pace in which it procs. Infused also reduces the cooldown of the glyph. So both of these are very fast firing. They guaranteed fire both at the same time off of our Area of Effect weapon damage over time skill, which is the Blade Cloak that we've got, and it will constantly give you this buff. So for applying this, every 2 seconds, we will do damage and give ourselves that buff. And we have the ability to constantly proc the glyphs. Now, if you look very, very carefully, you'll see that sometimes these enemies have a grey, not grey, like a green, that color there. See the greeny browny color thing? That comes from just having this running. And what is it? It's disease. Disease was changed. Disease status effects from glyphs are obviously very, very high. But when they attack a target, they burst in Area of Effect and attach disease to multiple targets and apply minor defile on everything. This is an Area of Effect, insta-hit and then burst, alongside the debuff. So in PvE or PvP, this can benefit regardless. PvE, it's nice to have the extra damage, especially in Infinite Archive if you get focused efforts. In PvP, if you were to utilize it, you've got built-in Area of Effect protection, damage output, and defile. You don't even have to try. Keep that buff up at all times and maintain your front bar presence as much as possible, and this will do its job for you. Not to mention, of course, remember, the weapon and spell damage reduction alongside the Crusher means less resistances and less damage output, plus you're hardly taking any damage anyway. If you count up all the different damage mitigation bonuses we've got, it's really, really hard for us to die. Before, it was tough. Now, it's just pissed off. So, champion points, and then I'm going to explain how to play it. This is going to look a little weird. So, the yellow ones, you can just slot in whenever you want. They are the same for all characters. Get them in your own time. But you want to make sure you pay attention to your main slottable ones. Obviously, you do want to get the status effect chance on both of these if you can, because they are important. But slottables first. Reduction to Area of Effect damage, alongside the 20% we've got, which is nuts. Reduction to single target attacks. And reduction to direct attacks. So direct, single, and AoE, all combined, all protected. Now, the other one you want to get is Reaving Blows. If you deal direct damage, you heal for 7% of the damage done. Now, technically speaking, this does not apply to your glyphs, because procs can't proc procs, and it doesn't apply to Deadly Cloak, because while it does do direct damage in Area of Effect, they technically only count it as damage over time when it comes to proc-based stuff. That might be a side effect of the fact that we've got the Black Rose weapons running, and it doesn't kind of overlap properly, but regardless, that doesn't function for this particular passive bonus. But what does, two things in fact, is the jump initially from the Tormentor set with the explosive charge, and also your damage shield. So if you are utilizing Radiant Shield, or what the hell was it called again? My brain has stopped. Radiant Ward is the one. Watch this carefully. It looks like it's only 227 per cast, but it's not. It's 227 per target. So the more targets in range while you're applying your damage shield, the more you heal. So on top of all this stuff that you've got running, you will constantly heal by doing jumps and shields. Tried and tested, that makes a substantial difference. So I would highly recommend keeping that on your bar or on your bar at the top there with 4 slottables. If you find that you're not really getting much use out of it, yes, of course, that's gone up because when you're in combat, it's still different. It's based off of stats. You can swap it out for damage over time effects if you want, but your healing over time counters that in most cases anyway, so you should be fine. Red stuff, very important. You are chunky as hell. Extra health, extra armor, extra damage, shield, strength, if you want it. But I also highly recommend this for 2 reasons. 1, massive block mitigation. Great, we all like that. 2, it allows you to have the block mitigation on the back bar, which is dual wield. Dual wield doesn't carry tanky passives. It doesn't have the same 20% reduction to, or the 20% mitigation bonus that the sword and board or the ice staff does. So when you swap bars, yes, overall we have less mitigation, but we now have the same mitigation as if we were just using sword and board or ice staff passives. So you can technically tank on the back bar. Front bar, you are incredibly hard to kill. Back bar, you're now a valid tank, even though you're not using tanky weapons. When it comes to the green tree, this is quality of life. It's up to you. Treasure hunter, more loot from chests. Longer duration food. Use potions but might not even consume one. And you're faster between fights. Mobility as a Templar is quite tricky to acquire. We are fast between fights and we have a massive gap closer. We're quick as hell. Now, how do you play it? Really simple. Maintain heavy attacks as and when you can between mechanics in order to maintain your stamina bar. You want to make sure that you're fighting back. You are a warrior, fight back. Block the big stuff, hit back when you can. If you see stuff dead, hit your repentance, obviously, because that will fill your stamina bar. Also, make sure your food is always running. And maintain potions at all times. If it's grey, great. If it's not, you're doing it wrong. Your shield needs to be up. Your circle on the ground needs to be down, and so does your resistance buff. This is you turtling up. Templars are good at that. Get used to it. If you have ability timers showing, you can see on the bottom left-hand side there, 1 and 2. My timers are ticking over. If they start to run out, I can reapply them, and they'll start again. At the same time as maintaining these buffs, maintain your deadly cloak, or your blade cloak. That will give you 20% reduction to area of effect. It will do damage. It will constantly proc your glyphs. Happy days. So, buffs on the ground, buffs on you. Maintain those at all times. If you get in trouble, put on a damage shield. If you need to taunt stuff, gap closer, or give yourself a resistance buff, which comes with it, jump. If you need to area of effect interrupt, jump. If you need to pull enemies that can be pulled, jump. If you need to taunt the target in front of you, but it's already got debuffs on it, jump. It's really as simple as that. Maintain your buffs, jump at the target, and watch your resources. Stab them when you're close if you want, obviously, but that's pretty much it. If you jump, they get pulled. If you do damage, that pops and they're all stunned. Easy peasy. Now, if they're long range, you've got a long range taunt. It's not as long as the Undaunted one, but it's pretty good. And if you're in the execute phase of the target, then of course, maintain your buffs and taunts, and then Jesus beam in between. If you're in deep shit, apply the dual wield ultimate. Everything is hemorrhaged, and look at my health. You cannot die. The amount of healing you get from it is absolutely stupid. And that's not including your resistance buff, which stacks with that. You get the idea. It's fucking bonkers. You are very hard to kill. Now, swap outs. I didn't go over these too much, but they'll be on the website. If you don't like the sleuth rugs or sloth rugs, however you want to pronounce it, you can, of course, just be tough as hell and put on leeching in place of Rush of Agony. If you're in a trial, you just want to be a massive tank. But the choice is yours. I'm sure you figured that out already. So, now it's time for fashion. We are utilizing the House Monard helmet, chest, shoulder, hands, legs, feet, and belt. The lot. It's all the same motif. Most of it is heavy, but the hat, I believe, is medium. And the colors are literally just gray and black. That's it. Try to make them look as Dark Souls as possible. Even the sword and board is the same motif. It's all the same. It is all House Monard or Monard even. And the back bar weapons are just to make them look different. Fargrave, Guardian. They're both exactly the same. They just have a different glow on them because of the glyphs they're carrying. One is purple, which is weapon and spell damage reduction. The other one is kind of a ganky color, which is sort of a greeny, browny yuck, which is poison. Disease even. And that's about it. Stay in your space, control the enemy, and jump in their faces to pull them in together and stun them. You don't really have to do much more. Yes, of course, you've got to maintain these buffs, but the good thing is that one is 30 seconds, that one is 20, and that one's 30. You've got half a minute worth of buffs there almost, apart from one. It's really easy to maintain those. Anyway, hopefully that helped. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. Hopefully that gives you some hope for the lazy tank, which is now dead, because Dark Soul has taken over it. And your previous character that you thought was going to be no good anymore is back. So thank you very much for watching. I hugely appreciate support. If you're not subscribed, and obviously hit that button. It's free, and social links are down below in the description. Don't forget, there's a class guide there just in case you need it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.